Have you ever wondered how people are able to create very realistic looking portraits like the one I'm popping up on the screen right now? Well, the reality is, it isn't that we are born with some incredibly innate artistic ability. So if you're here, you're probably trying to figure out, what is it that makes an artist able to create something so realistic? So I am going to walk you guys through that process of how you can achieve realism. This portrait particular painting was 11 by 14 and it took me a little over 4 hours. I probably have another hour of minor color corrections left to go on it. But anyway, let's roll into this and I will show you guys how I go about this process. I like to start out making sure my sketch, what have you, is on a piece of tracing paper first, and that way if I have to do any corrections in my sketch, drawing, tracing, whatever it is you need to transfer, I can always not have to worry about all the pencil lines needing to be corrected on my painting. Of course, in this particular case, I started out with the bluish gray for the whites of the eye. Eyes are never white. Whoever coined that term really did a disservice to artists throughout history. I am going to add in a darker gray for the pupils, and I will outline around because these are blue eyes. Blue and black will mix up really well together. I particularly freehanded them in there, but cutting yourself a little stencil will save you a little bit of work. Notice how I'm putting in little dots and lines throughout there. That's going to give me a little bit of texture to work on. And that is creating my value with a grayscale, and which is not always the way I do it, but in this particular case it is the way I did. And this, now I took a transparent blue from the golden high flow line. Used transparent blue. I actually had to add a little bit of dioxazine purple to it to get the right tone of blue, and so I'm using two different colors of blue in there, and then of course scratched out some highlights. When I get down to the knitting, this particular knitting, there is no really easy fix for it. I had to go in here dot by tedious dot and little bitty line by tedious line, creating small and subtle blend tones. To get that coloring in there, you just have to be very careful that you're working with the subtle colors. The color that I'm using on the tear ducts of the eye is quinacridone red from the golden high flow line. Okay, you just saw that I was mixing color. Now, of course, this video sped up quite a bit. I do have full-length tutorial over on my Patreon. I'll leave you guys a link for those of you that are interested in seeing this in real time, or mostly real time. It's about 3 hours worth of video. But you notice that I'm mixing up some colors. What I'm working from is the Zorn palette, and I'm going to pop up a little card over on your right hand side of the screen. I think over here, that's going to be a little eye right there. If you hit that little eye, and it will bring a pop down, and it will take you to the video I have on how to use the Zorn palette. So when you're mixing skin tones, you're going to mix more than one skin tone. We start out with our lightest skin tone, which are the hardest tones to mix, is those lightest colors. They're very, very dull and they're very desaturated. This is why I chose to use the Zorn palette in this particular case. But if you go to my Zorn palette story, you'll be straight away on that. And I'm going to mix up a couple different skin tones. Let's roll back into some footage. So once I mix up that lightest skin tone, I'm going to come in, start putting that lighter skin tone in there. And importantly, in this particular case, I'm going to put a lot of my textures in this layer. It's not as simple as just spraying away one color and base coloring the entire picture in one swoop. So I'm working textures as I'm building my picture. I have videos on that as well if you guys are interested in seeing how I do freehand textures and other textures. As I continue to work around there, like I said, you don't just lay it in all in one fell swoop, and I will continue to build textures. You'll see me in a moment use a dryer sheet in this base color layer. After I put this base color layer in, we will probably knock those textures back So we can do a little scratching, erasing, what have you, but since we're working with opaques, and you can gently go over the top of that first layer with the same color and knock those textures back by gentle spraying, some of those textures will show through. So those textures will become very, very subtle later in the picture. After you get that first layer in of color, you're going to mix up your second layer of color. And of course, once again, if you guys check out that video on the Zorn palette, I also have a video on blending skin tones out there that'll help you a little bit. This one's a lot more detailed than that particular picture, obviously. So you bring in that second layer of color over the top, and it's important to just try to mix very, very accurately at this stage. But remember, there'll be more than just a couple of color layers in there. What I will do eventually is get around to blending in with a transparent to shift my color tones later in the picture. Your painting is going to look really kind of funny at this stage of the game. This is the third color actually I'm mixing now. This is the third color. And so I've got my reference out really close and following it very closely. Remember, things are going to look pretty funny because there's no eyelashes and there's no eyebrows in there, and there's no hair. Since you have no color in the hair and you have no eyebrows, no darks in there right now, your judgment of what the color really is versus what it looks like to you against that stark white is skewed. And that understanding that and just making sure that you mix your colors accurately to your portrait is much more important. If you mix your colors accurately, then you're not going to have trouble later on. Unicolors are probably never going to be 100% accurate in your first couple color mixes, and they take a few minutes, for me with experience to mix colors accurately. So expect that when you start mixing colors, trying to mix colors accurately, it's going to take a little bit of time. The further along you go in the picture, the more you continue to work towards your darker colors. And as you get into your darker colors, it's more important to be much more accurate. Watch what happens when I put that dark shade in next to that cheek on the right hand side. Notice how tremendously that alters things really, really quickly. Still looks pretty funny because we have no eyebrows and eyelashes. So our darker layer goes in there under our hair. I'm not going to worry about masking off anything because I'm going to probably use an eraser at the end to create them sharper lines, but that shadow that's underneath from the hair will help create the volume. Now I'm coming in, and of course I'm just freehanding in some eyebrows. It is important to note the direction of your eyebrows. They do not all just flow up and they do not all just flow out. Same thing with the eyelashes. I'm freehanding. You can, of course, get a shield and make a shield for it. That is, of course, another color. So that color is not black. It is actually got a little quinacridone red mixed with black together, combined to make that darker color there. And this difference when we get the eyebrows and the eyelashes in there, and then we will do some subtle blending with some transparents just to bring the color tones in, completely under control there. You maybe need a little bit of red or a little bit of purple or something like that. Now I want to put in that background. Not a lot to describe there, so I'm just going to let you see what I did. It's just some blues, purples, and some browns, and made a blurry and out of focus background. All right, guys, we're about to get into the hair. When we get into the hair, there's going to be multiple different techniques and styles in which we use. Some of that work will be done using various shields, textures, or shields for texture and for creating a hard edge where we need to. It is important to pay attention to your edging. This particular hair color is a very light hair color, and it's a little bit more difficult to do light colors than it is to do dark colors. So we're going to roll into the footage here and what we do, and I have several different tips that are coming at you for just hair textures. And yeah, let's roll back into it, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a minute. All right, so when you start talking about the scalp, we're going to work from that scalp, and we're just going to create a little bit of dagger stroke work there and coming towards the outside. We don't have to be too worried about being too crisp and too perfect right now. You know, the only thing that's really important is you understand where the hair starts flowing under each other. Like there's a section um, right there that I put in the darks right there, and you wonder why there's not a section behind it. Well, that's the color that'll be standing out on top. Remember, when you start throwing shadows and things, it makes them appear more towards the back always. Notice I used a piece of paper there to get a nice and crisp edge where I wanted a crisp edge coming for that hair that's coming out of the scalp. She obviously had some black roots, so she must have been a bleach blonde. Careful attention to the direction that the hair flows, and you'll notice that I'm just putting in some loose strokes and establishing some of the darker areas and tones. Coming up, I'm going to be using some blackbeard wheat, which can be found in floral sections of hobby stores and things like that, but it is a floral. Taping that off like that, really smart idea. The guy's pretty smart. Did that because the blackbeard wheat is very stiff and it's very hard to, be an airbrush with no hands. So if you had to hold it with two hands, it'd be a problem. Now I'm going to come in here and start using my color, the color of the hair. This I made it a little bit darker than the actual color of the hair so that when I scratch back, it will pull that tonal value to what I want it to be. So it's just a very light brownish color, and I want the browns to show through underneath the scratches that I put in. And then of course I'm going to use an X-Acto knife for all those really, really fine lines. It's the easiest way to do it if you're on a surface that is capable of accepting a blade. And then, of course, tediously and carefully coming in and bringing those random hairs over the face, controlling how much I pull on the blade, how deep those scratches go, not pulling the paint all the way back to white in hardly any case. So after all that, it's time for me to relax with a little cup of coffee here. And, you know, don't let anybody tell you you don't have it in you to be able to create realistic artworks. I started painting at the tender young age of 46 years old. And this is where I'm at today. It has not been that long. You can learn this as long as you're willing to invest time in learning about art and not just focusing on being an airbrush artist, but focus on being a better artist and you'll become better. I appreciate all you guys for stopping by. If you got any questions for me, leave them down below. Likes, shares, and all that good stuff, great. Of course, you got more questions than I can answer in the comments down below. Hit me up on Patreon. I'll leave you guys a link. That's going to be a wrap for today. Y'all have a good one. Bye.